What runes will we have available to ourselves at the very beginning of Season of Discovery? Blizzard has mentioned that they want this game to feel like a new and fun way to enjoy the game. That means we are most likely going to get one of the new runes very early on for every single class. So today we're going to discuss what the rune is most likely going to be and why. And a lot of the reasons why might come down basically to enhancing the classes and giving something new to each class's playstyle. What I mean by that is essentially each one of the classes needs an extra button that you're able to press while leveling up that will make you stronger in the open world as other mobs and enemies also get stronger in the open world. So something that's going to help you level up faster and feel like it is very natural for the class at that level is exactly what you are going to most likely be getting at the very early levels. So we're just going to kind of go down the list of each one of the classes and talk about what rune you'll most likely be getting. There's a few options for each of the classes, and some of the classes it's kind of obvious. So starting with Mage. Mages need an extra button to press. You start out only having Frostbolt or Firebolt and then Frostbolt. So what's the next thing there? And if you want to get any extra buttons, all three of them actually just are in the glove slot. A new fire spell, a new arcane spell, and a new frost spell. These are the options for Mage to receive early on, and I don't think you'll have a choice. I think Blizzard will exactly tell you which one it will be, and I will definitely, guys, I will have a guide updating you on every single one of these as soon as we know all about them, as well as Rested XP is probably updating their guides on how to find every single rune. Either way, Living Bomb is one of the abilities we can get. Basically, you could put a Living Bomb on a target, it will be a dot, and then it will explode for a ton of damage. This would greatly increase your leveling speed, but only if mobs would live long enough for it to pop off, which is over 12 seconds. That means it's probably not going to be the rune we'll get right on the onset. Arcane Blast is an ability we might get because it does add something to the arcane tree. If you're starting off as a mage, you have something for frost, you have something for fire, and you don't really have something for arcane early on enough. The only issue is Arcane Blast by itself, instead of buffing the damage of subsequent Arcane Blasts, like using this spell would make the next cast of this spell do more damage, it buffs all other arcane abilities. That means if you don't have other arcane abilities at the low levels, it's probably not very useful, meaning the most likely one we'll get is probably going to be something like Ice Lance. Ice Lance is an instant cast ability that hits for a lot less than a normal Frostbolt, but whenever it hits a target that's frozen, it does triple damage. This means you will be able to use Nova and then Frostbolt into an Ice Lance to kind of one-shot and shatter combo any of the mobs you're fighting while leveling. So I would anticipate for mages to most likely get Ice Lance, although it is an option for them to get both Living Bomb and Arcane Blast. Now for druids, there's a few options. All of the options are spellcaster options. Druids need to have something that enhances their leveling speed, and one of the runes in particular is probably one of the best runes possible for leveling, and that one is Fury of Stormrage. It reduces the cost of your Wrath ability by 100%. You have free Wrath spells. This is so overpowered for leveling, especially up to level 10, because druids do not have bear form just yet. And this also gives you a chance to make your next healing touch or your next heal an instant cast spell. That means you can permanently be casting Wrath to kill every enemy you fight, and then you can instantly heal yourself up with the mana that you want to use, but everything is free. The reason why I don't know if druids would get this, because I think this is so strong. I think they are going to get another ability that is something like Star Surge, which is going to be one of your boomkin abilities, right? So you might get Star Surge, which has a 10-second CD, or you might get Sunfire, which is basically like an extra Moonfire. I think most likely you will get one of these, but you can't really get a healing spell. It won't help you with leveling, and you can't get anything for any of the feral trees because you don't have those unlocked until level 10. So expect to have one of those three abilities, and if you're a druid, all of us druids are going to be hoping we get Fury of the Stormrage. Now, moving down towards Priest, Priests also have 3 viable options. A new dot with Void Plague, which is a nice little disease that goes up on the target. It is not ridiculously mana intensive, 13% of your base mana, but it's also not the most powerful of dots. On top of that, you could get Shadow Word Death, which I think is a very solid choice. If a mob is about to die, you hit it for a ton of damage, pretty much like an extra Mind Blast, and then if it doesn't kill the target, then you take the same amount of damage you did to the target. This will also give Priests like an instant tag, an instant cast tagging ability, which is really nice. And the other chance or other option would be Penance. Penance can be used as a heal or a damaging ability. And basically what it does is channels an ability that shoots out like multiple, if you haven't seen Penance, it shoots out multiple like little white blasts at the target. It either hits them for damage or heals them. I think this is the most likely combined with Shadow Word Death. Anything else is pretty much enhancing your character, and you don't really want something that enhances your character. You want an ability that allows you to press something else while leveling. As for Warlocks, Warlocks have a few options, but I think the strongest options, the most common options, are definitely not Metamorphosis. This is the most broken rune ever. I think this is actually getting nerfed for PvP, like as we speak. I think it's going around the Warlock Discord that it's getting nerfed for PvP because this one rune is like the most powerful rune of all time for PvP. But Warlocks, an extra ability would be something like either Incinerate, where instead of casting Shadow Bolt, you'd cast Incinerate as a Fire Warlock. It would replace Shadow Bolt. This is a very, very solid option, but I think it is lesser common than the other two because it doesn't give you an extra ability. It replaces an ability most likely, right? Instead of casting Shadow Bolt, you would cast Incinerate. So instead of that, you could either get Chaos Bolt or Haunt. Chaos Bolt is probably the most likely, where you would have a 12-second CD to cast an ability that hits a lot harder than your normal Shadow Bolts. And it'll basically almost one-shot mobs as you're leveling. So every maybe second or third enemy that you run into, you would be able to cast Chaos Bolt, pretty much one-shot it, and then continue moving on in your leveling route. This is drastically increasing your leveling speed and making you a lot more powerful, but it could also be Haunt. And one of the big things about Haunt that most people didn't notice until recently is that this is an instant cast spell. Your Haunt ability is an instant cast spell. It increases the damage of your dots, mainly things like your corruption. That's what it does, where it would usually buff those dot damages, but it also hits for an initial amount of damage. So this is basically another instant cast Shadow Bolt. Then you can hit a corruption or a agony on the target and they will hit for harder, because 20% harder, because they have Haunt up on the target. I think either of these are very, very solid plays. If you get either of these as a Warlock, you're going to be very, very happy. Now for Warriors, there's one that you absolutely want, kind of like Druids, but there's 2 other options that I don't think they're really the play. Raging Blow could be an option, but you don't really have a way of getting yourself Enraged, Berserker Rage, or Blood Rage. So there's no real use out of Raging Blow. It would basically be an extra hit that deals for 100% of your weapon damage. I don't think it's possible. Same thing with Devastate. Some people aren't using a one-hander and a shield, which I don't think is necessary to be able to use Devastate, so it's possible, but I don't think you would. Devastate would basically replace Sunder Armor, but it also hits for your weapon damage, and then each subsequent Devastate hits for more than your weapon damage, another 10%. Quick Strike is the other option that's there, but again, I don't think everyone will be wearing a two-hander. You can start off, some warriors start off with two-handers like Taurens, Orcs, Dwarves, but most warriors start out with a one-hander and shield. So having an extra ability that just hits for your weapon damage or more isn't useful if you can't actually use it. That means you're probably gonna get Victory Rush, which actually is usable after you get a kill or an honorable blow, and the next target you hit, the first attack you would use on it would be Victory Rush, healing yourself for 10% of your max HP. This would basically completely fix Warriors' issues in the early leveling state where you have to sit down and drink all the time. This is also the strongest rune for Warriors for leveling, because consistently, if you can kill mobs fast enough, you can just use Victory Rush and then heal up all the damage that they did to you. Just use this as often as possible. 8-second CD. This is an insanely overpowered rune. This is a really, really good one for leveling. Now, hunters have a similar situation. You can't get any of the runes that buff your damage as a pet dealer. You could get Lone Wolf early on, giving you 15% extra damage, but I don't think that actually adds to the playstyle. I don't think it makes it more fun to play hunter. So getting anything that just buffs yourself, like Aspect of the Lion, Master Marksman, or Lone Wolf, doesn't really make the hunter more fun. And I think Blizzard is going to do something that makes the hunter more fun. And what that would be either getting something like Carve or one of the melee attack abilities, which would then be also Flanking Strike, but that has a 30-second cooldown, much too long of a CD to actually be able to use it consistently. I think the most likely options are Explosive Shot and Chimera Shot for hunters. Explosive Shot hits for a ton of damage, and then it ticks 4 damage on the target every second for the next 2 seconds. Here's the caveat with Explosive Shot. It shares a cooldown with Arcane Shot, which also in Classic means it shares a cooldown with Aim Shot, which is very rough. That's why I think the most likely option is Explosive Shot, but you won't be able to use your Arcane Shot, which you learn very early on. I think it's level 4, maybe it's level 6, but I think it's level 4 where you learn Arcane Shot. So they wouldn't really want to give you a rune that stops you from already using one of the abilities you just got. If instead, Chimera Shot would buff the damage you do to targets that have Serpent Sting on them. It also gives you a little bit of extra kind of versatility to the class where you won't have Viper Sting, but Scorpid Sting. If you use this on a target to reduce their attack power, then you can also use Chimera Shot, which would then disarm them. So hunters now have a disarm. I think the most likely option would be Chimera Shot, but Explosive Shot, I could easily see it being that, or Carve, getting an extra melee attack, but having a cleave ability this early seems a little bit too overpowered, so be wary of that. Now, rogues have a couple options as well, but there's one that is by far the best for leveling, and that would be Shadow Strike. First of all, let me tell you, Mutilate, you can't really go with Mutilate because you don't have an offhand weapon, so giving yourself an attack that hits with both your main hand and offhand weapon doesn't really help you if you literally don't have that offhand weapon, which happens at level 10 for rogues. Now, Saber Slash, I think this is probably the most common one that you would get because it would hit for more than Sinister Strike, but it kind of replaces Sinister Strike. So if you get Saber Slash, it kind of takes away one of your other abilities, just like I was mentioning earlier. So the best one, I think, is Shadow Strike. You'll never use this in raid situations, but it's really good for PvP and for leveling because it teleports you behind your target and you hit them for 150% of your weapon damage. It also gives you 1 combo point. It only costs 20 energy. This is crucial. It is almost free to use, and it has a 25-yard range. Now, the only caveat is you have to be stealth, of course, but if you can get into stealth, then you can teleport 25 yards to the next target, hit them, and keep moving. This is pretty much like a double length blink. I don't know how long the range actually of blink is. For some reason, I think it's 10 to 13 yards, but it could be a lot longer. This thing is really nice for leveling. It will greatly increase your leveling speed. So Shadow Strike is the one you're all hoping for, actually. Saber Slash is great, but Shadow Strike is really what you're hoping for. Just be aware that this is what you would like to have. We don't know exactly what's happening, but I will let you know as soon as it happens. Now, for Shamans, you can't get anything that increases your dual wielding abilities because you can't dual wield just yet. So what you're most likely going to get is, this is the most common one. Lava Lash is an attack that hits with your offhand. You won't get that. The most common one would be giving yourself an extra ability, which would be Lava Burst. Now, the issue is Shaman mana might be a slight issue at this level. Lava Burst would hit basically kind of like a chaos bolt, so it would hit pretty hard and increase the fire damage you do against the target, which you will learn Flame Shock pretty quickly. So I think Shamans will get Lava Burst because it does give them an extra ability. Then for Paladins, it's like, I don't think there's any question, it's gonna be Crusader Strike. You can tell me in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but Paladins are going to get Crusader Strike. Paladins are literally like the epitome of auto attacking in classic WoW. So right away at level 2 or 4, getting an extra ability that's actually like a heroic strike or an extra attack every 6 seconds is so powerful. It'll drastically increase their leveling speed. This is super, super good, and it increases your mana back by 2%. All the other runes will be open for interpretation. You'll be kind of discovering them. We don't know where you'll find them, but I will have guides. Wowhead probably will have guides. Everywhere will have guides on like, this is where you get this rune. If you don't want to see that, don't watch those videos during that time. I'm just warning you. But these are most likely the strongest runes or the best runes for leveling and the reasons why. If you want a full update on exactly which ones we 100% are getting, I will have that out probably 30 minutes after launch. If you're trying to level very quickly, I would anticipate that the leveling routes are going to be very, very similar to what we have in Season of Mastery. Well, no, actually more similar to what we have in Era. And if you need a leveling guide, as always, you'll probably see this from every single content creator because the leveling guides are amazing. I would always suggest going with Rested XP. You can grab a link in the description. It'll literally just give you an arrow and tell you where to go for the next quest. And they will have updated versions for Season of Discovery telling you also how to get your runes. This will just help you level quickly, but it's realistically only level 25 right now. You don't need to rush. Discover things all on your own. Enjoy the game and have fun. I'm very excited, and I've got a ton more guides coming out very soon, so make sure to check all of those out. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.